This is the 309th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the last week of the summer, August 2019. This episode is titled Managing Calendars. I'm your host, Jason Now, and joining me, co-host for 309 times in a row, managing all his life commitments and calendars, Justin Calendar Edelstein. How you doing, Justin?
Hey, yeah, I screwed that up, didn't I?
Yep. But I caught it. Caught it on the fly.
Yeah, I just fixed it.
Well, it's here. It's here that it's messed up. It's right here. See this?
Oh, got it. Oh, yeah. I didn't see that one. It was messed up in two places. That's really great.
Yeah, well,
that's good.
That's how good I am. 309 times.
Good for you. So what are we talking about? Calendars here, huh?
So last of our summer series for your productivity.
Summer's not over, though.
It's almost.
Nah.
End of August.
Nah, that's just a date on a calendar.
As soon as football starts, the summer is over.
Well, it's starting.
It's a crazy, crazy summer, but we'll talk about that on next podcast.
Well, good thing I have all of the games that I'm attending on my calendar now.
Because after our last podcast, when we talked about commitments, and you captured it.
Yeah.
All right. So we kind of started into this last podcast when we were talking about commitments, and we were kind of talking about the GTD side of the non-commitment, the non-time-based commitments, but we did kind of touch on calendars, and in the GTD world, the calendar actually is really important. I like to use it as my starting point for teaching people about GTD, just giving them the aha moment of, hey, you do this thing all the time. Here's what you do. Here's what it would feel terrible if you didn't do. Just do this, but with this other tool, another tool, which is fine, and with this other set of stuff. And here's how you do it. Yep. Because people are so trained and through whatever that they know calendars. They know how to use them. They know what to put on them. So we're not going to talk about like how to handle a calendar. We're going to talk about sort of like some do's and don'ts, some best practices, some GTD twists of calendars.
I also like the idea of why calendars.
Okay, fine.
You know what I mean?
You like that idea, or you want to talk about that idea? Or do you want me to talk about that idea?
I mean, we could both talk about it.
It's a weird thing to say. I like the idea.
I like the idea of why calendar.
I like the idea of why calendar.
Well, I think calendar in and of itself is a really useful tool, and I don't necessarily feel as though there's a right or wrong way to use a calendar.
Oof.
It's just my feeling on it.
Never met me.
I know, because you have very strong feelings about this.
Let's call them best practices.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go about it. So, like, I'm just looking at my calendar right now, and what the best part about the calendar is that it does take those time-based commitments and allows you to see them in a way that is super meaningful. So when I'm looking at my calendar, here we are today, the
end of August.
Yeah, I was gonna say the early part of the week, of the last week of August.
All right.
And I can just look at my calendar, very quick scan, and tell you, hey, Labor Day's coming, and I'm going to the Berkshires, and I'm going to be there, and I'm seeing Trombone Shorty at Tanglewood on Saturday. Like, Saturday night, 6 p.m., I'll be at Tanglewood. That's where I'm going to be, because it has a time and a location, and it's happening on that date, and it's going to happen whether I'm there or not.
That's correct.
Right? Whether I'm there or not, that thing is happening, but I have tickets to it, and I'm going to it. And if it wasn't on my calendar, I don't know how I would be able to so quickly be able to just know that.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about being good with a calendar, and I consider myself pretty good, again, we'll talk about tips and tricks and things, and we can even talk about this family calendar, which is something I wrote a blog post about.
Family calendar is great.
Freaking 7 years ago or something. But, the one thing about being good at calendars is actually being good at commitments. So here's why. Ever had a time? Well, I won't make fun.
Go on. I mean, you may as well. Go ahead.
I can make fun of you. Ever had a time that you ask a friend to do something on a certain date, and you're like, "Yeah, I can do that," and then they say, "Sure, great, I can do that," and you go, "Great," and you go, "Okay," and then they send them an email or a text or a WhatsApp, and then 4 days later, right? And either you go buy the tickets or you do whatever it is to make that thing happen, and then 4 days later they shoot back, "Oh man, I forgot. I forgot. I didn't know that I was gonna do blah 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 that day.
Oh yeah,
And
I've been on both sides.
You
of that.
have been on both sides of that.
For sure.
And it's terrible, right? You feel bad on one side. You kind of don't trust your friend. You're like, well, next time I ask you to do something, I'm not going to trust you when you say, yes, I can do it. I always, when someone says yes immediately, I'm like, you can't say yes. How do I know you can't say yes? Because you're not looking at your calendar, especially if it's far out, right? Hey, Justin, can you go to the whatever game in
that's
December?
Why I captured that thing. I was like, wait, I'm missing a large number of commitments, which is the football season coming. For us, you and I particularly, those Sundays are sort of committed. Like, that's it. And I need to know, like, ahead of time, am I going to be home or somewhere else?
Yeah.
So that way people in my life are aware. Like, my wife knows,
So let's
I'm going to be, looks like this Sunday Justin's going to be home watching football all day. So I've got to, like, either figure, I'm talking in her head, I've got to either leave the house or
definitely send this podcast
leave the house
to her.
or, like, kick him to the other room or kick him to your place. Or, oh, good, it's a football Sunday, but he's going to be gone most of the day.
Justin Elstein, celebrating 5 years of good. He'll be gone all Sunday.
He'll be gone all day. And it's more so that she doesn't have to deal with the football, not really
I
me.
understand.
It's the football.
I understand both.
Yeah.
So let's talk family calendars again. Something that I
let's
wrote
do
a blog post. You can go read it on the blog. It's as old as paint, but I think it still
applies.
Still applies. Here's the theory: you get a shared calendar. I happen to use iCloud for this.
Samesies. Totally could use Google. They're very good at it.
In fact, a close friend of mine just got married and they started using it, and they're using this system. So here's the system. You have a shared calendar. You make sure both of you have it. So you have it in your system. You have it on your phone. You have it on your desktop. You have it wherever you have your phone.
Right.
Yes. And then you share it between the two of you. Then, and you can intermingle it. With the best part is you can intermingle it with other calendars, because Google can do that. You can overlay calendars together. And then here's the system. You put into it events that are happening to you in the calendar. You're like, oh, that seems very simple. But it's all about the naming convention. It's all about the subject. And here's the way I do it, and I'll just tell you. So one is I put the initials. Well, first of all, if I throw something in the calendar and it just has the event, let's call it vacation let's call it Disney vacation.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That means to everybody involved, we're all doing it.
We're all doing it.
That's the three people in the family:
Samesies.
the wife, the child, and the me.
The example I just gave you was on the family calendar, and it said Trombone Shorty, and it had a location, Tanglewood.
Great. So the first part of the naming convention is if it doesn't have anything in front of it, it means everybody in the family. So if you have 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, you're all doing it. So if you have 3 kids, everybody's doing it. It's a vacation. It's something that everybody's doing it. Then you have what if 2 or 3 people or 2 of the family members are doing it or one person's doing it. Then you put your initials at the beginning of the calendar event. Mm-hmm. So for example, I have JMA/HJA:camp. That means my daughter and I are going to camp. That means the other person in the house is not going to camp.
Yep.
So when she looks at the calendar, she goes, oh, he's going to camp. If it's JMA: drinks with Justin, that means I'm going out with drinks with you.
Yep.
If it's JMA/SHA: date night in LIC, that means her and I are doing it and the daughter is not.
Yep.
Right? So it's super simple, but it works because you could quickly scan your calendar and know who's going to what event.
Yep.
And you don't have to have all those questions. We put in things like workouts, like if I'm going to go for a long run on a Sunday, she's going to go to a class. SHA, spin class.
We do the same exact thing.
JMA, long run. It just means that if she wakes up in the morning and like I'm not there and gone for an hour and a half, I don't get a text like freaking out. She looks, oh, right, he's going for a long run.
Exactly.
Or there's now, and there's the bonus of it that you can set up. Now, iCloud does this, is why I stick to iCloud. iCloud does an alert on your calendar. And it actually does it. It's much better now. It used to send you an email, which is kind of annoying. But now it just sends you an alert on your calendar, on your thing, and it tells you if something's been added or deleted or changed.
Yeah, and you decide how you want that alert to show up.
And it's great because then if someone throws on JMA/SHA, colon Vietnam, in December 2020, I'm like, oh, looks like we're going to Vietnam, right? So, and if they change, if it's because a lot of times there's things that change. She's going out for drinks with a friend, and then the plans get changed. Instead of having that, I'll get an alert that tells me the plans have changed. We don't have to have a discussion about it. We don't have the text string.
Yeah.
It just tells me. And deleting means it's not happening anymore. Moved means it's moved. And if the title changes, the title changes. Here's my other tip. This is maybe the last 2 or 3 years. We started doing TBD. So what we'll do is
we do holds.
We put TBD at the end of it that says this is a TBD plan. It is not locked in. Because sometimes I'm going to go out for dinner with you. I'll put TBD in the calendar event, in the name. You can put it at the beginning, you can hold, whatever. But the idea is you're telling the other person, hey, I'm not 100% sure on this plan, but I'm putting it so it's there so we don't schedule anything around it.
Precisely.
And that's it. You can put TBD, you can put hold, you can put block, you can whatever you want. But the idea is you're kind of telling the other person it's tentative. Now, you have to be good enough, GTD, to go and unremove that because you don't want to have the argument of, well, you said TBD and then you didn't go or you do it. You should remove the block as soon as you know it's real.
Sometimes we'll when it's there's just 2 of us, so it's very simple. It's a J or an S or it's a nothing.
Right.
Nothing in front of it.
No B.
No B.
No J/S B.
The cat doesn't need to be involved. No. He doesn't get a choice.
Well, it's not a choice. He just knows he's going to the vet.
He doesn't have a calendar. He can't read. To my knowledge, he can't read.
Oh,
but
challenge him.
Maybe. But what we'll do is sometimes even use it as a way of nudging, I guess, where we'll throw something on, and instead of saying hold or TBD, we'll just throw 5 question marks at the end.
Okay.
It's almost instead of even asking you, I'm literally throwing it on the calendar.
Yes.
And this is my way of asking.
Yes.
Because I really want to do this, but with you.
Right.
Not alone, not a J, whatever, because then I'm just, there's a blank time in the calendar. Good, I'm doing that. It's more of a, we're doing this together, maybe if you agree. And it's then she'll see it.
And will she remove the question marks?
Yeah. Or we'll go back and forth and discuss it. She won't delete it. We'll have, she won't just, that's the rules. You don't just go in there and delete it. And
just delete it.
Well, those are the boundaries, right?
Yeah.
So it's, you can throw anything you want on the calendar and you can throw holds and question marks and all sorts of things. But if it's a hold or if it's a question mark, we need to discuss whether we're going to do that in a timely fashion.
I mean, obviously, this is with someone who you are.
Yeah,
in a
you don't do
relationship
this with everybody.
Right.
This is a personal family calendar.
Right.
I don't even really have my own calendar at this point. I very rarely use it.
Yes.
It's for hidden things.
Exactly. That's just about to bring up that point. So you say, how do you put the hidden thing? So I have I have one. It's called personal. It's in deep red because almost never anything goes on it.
Yep. Mine's in orange.
But I will put things on it that I know actually for my birthday, my wife got me tickets to Oklahoma. Yeah. And so she literally, after giving me the gift, she goes, oh, great, now I can move it. And so she went on her phone and then just moved it from one calendar to the next. I've done that too. If I get her a massage or something, I'll put it in there so I know it's there, and then I'll move it to the next calendar when I've given the gift. So a great way. It is a great tip. I will tell you, it has saved us from so many fights, so many miscommunications, so many, oh my goodness, you didn't tell me you were doing X. And it gives us a good, it's kind of like the ground. You can say, hey, the calendar is the place you put it. You can have a discussion about it. It's not the end all. It doesn't take over discussions. So it's not JMA, Vietnam, 3 years. It's what?
Okay, see ya.
Yeah. Oh, I see you're going to Vietnam for 3 years.
Cool.
That's not a thing. It still has to have a conversation if it needs it. But it is a great way of keeping and knowing where people are. It's easier when you go to schedule things. Oh, I see that person is doing that. Sometimes I'll say some of the conversations we'll have are, hey, I see you're like going to a concert tomorrow, then you're going out for drinks with your friend, then you're going out for dinner the next night. Are you sure you really want to be going out 3 nights in a row? Aren't you going to be a little tired because the next day we have to do X? So sometimes it's a little bit of a reminder of your your life partner. You're like, hey, maybe you're kind of over, you're putting too much in there. Anyway, that's the family calendar. Let's talk some stuff that should go into calendars.
Okay.
So there's a GTD stuff. GTD actually says there's 3 things that should go into calendars.
Okay.
I disagree with one of them.
Okay. Let's go through what you disagree with.
Well, let's go to the 2 things that I agree with. Time-based events, we just discussed that.
Yeah, we did that.
All-day notices.
Okay.
So those are the...
I'm going to be out of the office or just busy today or not around, whatever it is.
Yeah. So for me, like with my kids at camp, I have one that spreads the entire summer. That's her in camp. It's not... I'm not at camp. I just need to know that she's at camp. Right. If you were to go on vacation, I might throw yours, or your boss goes on vacation, you might just throw it as an all-day event for 3 weeks, boss on vacation. It's just to remind you that something's happening over a period of time.
Yes.
Right? And things that are on all-day notices, like you could put an anniversary or birthdays. Those are things that, or trips, right? You put as all day.
Yeah.
So you could see it up there. You look in the future.
Make sure you check that all-day thing, so it's not like, don't just make it from like 8 a.m. to like 5 p.m. 3 weeks from now. Please don't do that. Just check the box that says all-day event.
Some people do that.
I know.
And we have discussions
but we just
about
check
it.
the box.
We
now.
check the box.
We check the box.
But and then there's block time that goes in the calendar. So sometimes you want to block something. You want someone else not to take your time. That's a whole nother discussion about allowing people to take your time. I don't know why we allow people to steal in this society, but whatever. No. But if one of the techniques that we like to do is if someone says to you, hey, I got some time for you next week. How about Tuesday at 3, Wednesday at 4, or Monday at 5? I will then go, most likely, and put those events, hold, and I'll put the name of the person because I want to make sure someone else doesn't, I forget or they don't get back to me. So sometimes I'll block. Sometimes we have like all day people coming in for interviews like tomorrow or even months ago. Like I'll just throw a block just to know that that's when it's happening, and then I'll put all the things in it as it comes up. Those are all great, right? The one that they will say is things that need to be done on a specific day. That's the one that I disagree with, because I think that's where you have a better tool for that. You don't need to put specific day things on a calendar because it doesn't scale well, right? It doesn't scale well because you might have 30 things due on that one specific day. Then your calendar, you look at the top of it, it's just like covered in all these little things. 2, they're not connected to what the thing they should be connected to. They should be connected to the larger outcome. In the calendar, they're not connected to the larger outcome, so therefore it's kind of failing. You should have a tool that connects your things that are due to your larger outcomes, right? And it's hard to renegotiate those. Like, what are you going to do? Drag and drop them all to the next day? Like, what are you going to do? Delete them when you do them? It doesn't make sense. So I think day-specific tasks, that's still in your task land. So that's why I actually disagree with the GTD methodology.
There is a satisfaction to crossing things off.
Right.
There's a real response. It makes you happy to accomplish the things. It's like, it's not that hard. Like, sometimes things are just not that hard. You just have to break them down to the smallest possible thing, the next action. Those things going on a calendar, you don't really get the satisfaction of crossing the thing off.
Right.
And then defining the next thing that you have to do, which is very satisfying and gratifying, and it moves the needle. It gives you that perspective of, I am moving this project forward. This is not that hard and hairy. I'm just taking it one action at a time, and I'm gonna get there.
It also doesn't allow you to get it. Like, again, I'll go back to OmniFocus. Maybe that task could be done on that Friday, but you also could do it Thursday. Well, then I want it to show up earlier than Friday. So then I don't want to look at it on the end of the week and see these 30 tasks sitting there in that one day. Again, it's just not a good system. It's really when people didn't have really good task
good
managers.
Tools.
Yeah.
Because that, again, I think in the OmniFocus episode, I said I live in the forecast view because it pulls my calendar in.
Yep.
So I've got my tasks, and I've got my calendar. I've got all the things I need to see for that day, and I can scroll through and look at the next day and scroll and look at the next day, or I can just click today
And just
see today.
Again,
all the things I need to do today are on my calendar and in my task manager. And that's it. It's
renegotiate
just
the commitment,
great.
drag and drop it to another day.
Sure.
So nice.
Oh, you know what? I don't need to do this right now.
Right.
I can do this in a week.
That's right.
Right? I want to do this thing with you. Do we need to do that today? Well, no. Let me ask him about it next week.
Right.
It's not that important. Or it is truly important. I must ask, but why is that on a calendar? Like, not until we say, okay, we're doing that thing. When are we doing that thing? On this day, great. Then it goes on the calendar.
So let's talk about some best practices of calendar events.
Sure. Let's do
and
it.
calendaring and managing calendars.
Yeah.
First of all, I would suggest that you almost always ask to put things on someone else's calendar. I know we live in a world where you can just throw people events, and just throw calendar events at them. I don't think that's a good practice. I think no matter what, you should have an agreement in advance. Hey, is this time work for you? I know it takes a little bit extra time to write that out and to email them or text them or whatever, but I think it's a better practice. I think it's better to ask somebody for their time than just to throw some random thing on their calendar and not express it. So what I would suggest is best practice. Spend the time. And if it's important enough to have an actual meeting, then spend the time to actually figure out when someone can be and get their buy-in and not just have it show up as a meeting invite they click on. 1. 2, the format of the calendar invite is important. Putting in, meeting in the subject line and no agenda and no dial-in is terrible. You should always provide something in the subject that when I'm looking at my calendar, it makes sense. Who and what? Who is in this? Company names, people, and what? What is this about?
Remember, these things are searchable these days.
Yeah, throw the who and the what in the subject so we can understand. So anybody can see it and go, whatever. Don't just put meeting or update
Project check-in.
Project check-in. Put who it's about and what it's about in the subject. Because, again, that shows up in the calendar in the top level. It also shows up in your mail, so you can go back and search on it. So find it. Search is important. 2, put agenda. Put something in the calendar event that indicates. So I get the big level.
Can I just stop you just for a second?
He just gave me hand signals.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to stop you there. For one second.
Yeah.
We're talking about now the naming goes across life.
Even family calendars. We were talking about the naming convention was important.
Very important. But I don't ever really put an agenda in a family calendar item.
No.
Okay, so let me just make that very clear that you are talking about work right now.
Yes.
Now, through this course of this summer series, we've been talking about, work-life integration, and this calendar is a big part of it because of the overlays that that you can do, right, with Google Calendar, and you can subscribe to calendars, bring them in and see them on top of each other. So that you're not just looking at your work calendar when someone asks you if you can meet. Well, you might have a dentist appointment.
Right.
Which you may not want on your work calendar because who needs to know that you're going to the dentist? You might just throw a 3-hour block. Block not available. But you might not.
Right.
So that's the point, is to be able to see them both. Now, what you're talking about is really a work calendar thing, so that when you're working internally or externally with, your coworkers or maybe your clients or maybe
Vendors,
a vendor
partners,
of yours, whatever it is, that the expectations are clear when the meeting is accepted, that there is a purpose and there's a desired outcome of that meeting. Yep. And if it's not understood why that meeting exists, you really shouldn't go.
You shouldn't have it happen. Well,
don't even bother.
Serves two
respond
purposes.
back and say, hey, what are we talking about?
It serves 2 purposes. One is when you get the meeting invite, you can quickly scan it to see what it's about. What's in this? The second is the meeting invite could be a week from now. When I get to the meeting,
you're going to forget.
And I click on it on a Friday, or I'm doing my review and I'm scanning my calendar. I'm like, I should be able to look at any calendar event and know what it is about. That's why I don't have to put an agenda in my family one, because it's kind of already there.
Pretty easy in the name.
Right. But I'll tell you, the more difficult it is, like when my wife travels and she throws like her flights in the calendar, she puts in more information. She puts in the flight information. She puts in the confirmation number, right? She puts in stuff that makes it easier for her to click on and for me to click on. If I want to track the flight, make sure it gets in, whatever. So it's just really put in better information into the calendar event and more. If it's a big meeting with lots of involved stuff, it should have a lot of time put into it. We were talking about the GTD Summit. The amount of information that was put for this 2-day meeting was tremendous. A huge day-by-day breakdown, things, speaker bios, whatever, right? They didn't just send out a meeting invite for 2 days called Summit and enjoy.
No, there's a huge website and then a collaborative document built on top of it to allow you to see what was going on with the event.
Right. A 15-minute check-in call, quick subject, dial-in number, check-in on project. Because you just do it, right? You scale it to the size of the thing. So putting in good agendas and good subjects is important because it's helping you and it's helping them and know why you're having the meeting, right? And then always provide the way you're meeting. Please provide the way you're meeting.
Please.
Like Salesforce. Sorry, Salesforce. You guys are the worst. All 37,000 of you. Put in the meeting invite, put the way we're meeting. Is it a call? Is it a Google Hangout? Is it a dial-in? Like there's too many meetings that I get that just don't have you. Then you click on it, you're 5 minutes before the meeting, like getting ready, like, okay, let me go. Oh, there's nothing in. Could someone provide the dial-in to this call? Come on. Like seriously.
Grow up, people.
Grow up. Put something in there. Again, I would suggest a tool called Text Expander. GTM, done and done. And then the last one I'd say is there are some really good measurements around meetings and what makes a good meeting and not. But I'll tell you what makes a best meeting is the smallest number of people possible. The most amount of work gets done with the smallest number of people doing it. Groups of 3 to 5 have been proven over and over again to be more effective than groups of 10 to 30 to 100. If all 700 people have to make a decision, you know that's going to take forever. So get these groups down to just the people who need to be involved.
Right.
You don't need to invite the manager and the person and the manager's manager and the manager's manager and the manager's managers to the meeting.
Right.
I got on a call today, and the person said to me, asked if someone else was going to be on the call, and I said, no. It's just you and I.
Right.
We're going to be in this call together because we're actually going to get stuff done in this 15-minute period. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
We don't need 30 people. 30 people makes it longer. There's more interruptions. It's harder to get through.
And no decisions. Because when you have 30 people at the table, sure, you want to listen to all the people at the table. Like, presumably they're there for a reason. Hopefully. But at the same time, the chances of coming to a consensus amongst 30 people are way lower than 2 people agreeing on a thing and just moving forward.
And remember why you're having a meeting. There are many times in my life, in my professional career, and we teach this at Arkus, it's one of the things we teach, when not to have a meeting. Don't have a meeting if you don't need to have a meeting. If it's 3 questions you can send by email and they can send back the answers, do that. Don't wait till Friday at 2:00 to review the 3 questions you could have sent a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's slow. You don't need to do it. Figure out, look at the meeting, go, do we need a consensus to look at something together, to collaborate on, to go back and forth? Is this the reason why we're getting on this meeting? And is there a reason why we have to wait 7 days to have this meeting? Especially when it gets to the we can't meet to this day. I'm just like, okay, let's try not to have a meeting. Let's throw a doc together. Let's do a collaborative Google Doc. Let's do a quip. Let's jump on sometimes when I'm people struggling, I'm like, how about now? Let's go right now. Here's my go-to meeting. Let's jump on. Let's do it. Like, we gotta get this thing. Don't always fall in this trap of like, let's throw a meeting out there 2 weeks from now. Yeah, you're slowing everything down. Sometimes
it's intentional, and sometimes it's not.
Sometimes the best meeting is not a meeting.
Yeah.
It's like, just send me a question, or send me something to fill out, or whatever. There's so many other solutions. That would be the other thing, is like sometimes it's not a meeting, right? Maybe it's a Google Sheet, and let's fill out the issues we're having, and let's collaborate on it. I find too many people just use meetings as the crutch of work, And meetings aren't work. Meetings don't actually make meetings don't you don't get work done in meetings. You review work, you make
Right.
decisions about work, but work is done individually. Two people do things. When people do work, they do it by themselves, right? People don't do work together. In most services industries, yes, if you're a builder, two people are holding a ladder up or whatever. But generally, in our industry, you don't have two admins both configuring the same field at the same time or data loading the same data at the same time.
That'd be a little weird.
Right? Or even writing the same trigger at the same time. They might be writing different parts of the trigger or a class and like a test class or a front end and a back end. But generally, they're writing separately because work is done apart. Then you bring the work together and it creates the outcome.
Right.
So meetings aren't about doing work. They're about reviewing and making decisions about what work should be done. Make sure not to wait into that meeting to get the work done. Don't make a meeting out in 5 days to review something you could have reviewed yesterday over a quick email.
Mm-hmm.
I could go on forever.
That whole thing about like that was a big thing with if I could recall who said it, I can't, but at the GTD Summit was when they were talking about teams, and it was like, a lot of it was team success equals happiness, stuff along those lines,
Yes.
but it was also about like work is done alone, teamwork's just weaving together all the work done by individuals.
That was my quote.
Yeah.
You're
Very
actually
good.
using my quote?
Oh, you made that one up?
Yeah.
It wasn't this guy, Tom?
Nope. That's
Oh.
why it says JMA next to it.
Oh, good for you. That's a great one. Hey, I just quoted
He
you.
just quoted me back to myself.
Back to you. You just won the podcast.
I won the podcast 309 times. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Anyway.
That's a really good one, though, because it's true. Like, it is the weaving together. It's the tapestry of it all, right? It's like, oh, you did this part, I did this part, you are doing that part. This comes together really lovely.
If you really think about work is done very singularly, and then it's done not in meetings. Like, that's the thing. So if you think of
Unless it's like a training meeting.
Sure.
Like, yeah, there are times where
Yes.
work is done in concert. Like, watch me do this.
Sure.
That is work getting done in a meeting. But that is not high-level, highfalutin thinking, like, what needs to happen, that kind of stuff. You can't really get to the bottom of all that. You can't get to the doing.
Yeah.
You're meeting about a thing, ultimately just talking about it, but the doing of it happens usually before and after.
And I think most people use calendars.
Good quote, man.
As thanks.
That's a good
Thanks,
one.
man.
Steal that.
They I can't steal it.
Borrow it.
Most people use
it
these
back.
meetings as crutches. They use them as ways of deferring things. They use it as ways of not getting things done. I really would like people to start to use meetings for just what they're meant for, and realize that the actual work happens in those blank spaces of your calendar, not in the ones where you have the backed up meetings. So, one other trick or tip of calendar management is confirmations. So here's a trick for you,
For me?
for anybody
The
in the
royal
world.
you?
Yeah, the royal you. If you have people in your life, clients, customers, people, bosses, family members, who are the overwhelmed ones, the stressful ones, they don't know, they're overcommitted, they have the email, the calendar pounded full of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones who almost always cancel at the last minute. Like, learn to check in. You're a GTD. Here's a thing you do. You look in your calendar weeks in advance. I check in. I have friends who are like this. I have a few of them who you make a plan, and then it's like, the 2 days before the plan, and you check in with them. Hey, we still on for Tuesday? Because they're the kind of person who's like, oh, actually, so you have those other people in the professional world that are just kind of flaky. So I suggest you adapt to them and you check in with them. So if I know they're super flaky, I check in with them a week in advance. Hey, we got that calendar event next Friday. We're going to meet? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we're on. Then I check in with them Monday. Hey, it's Monday. Still on for Friday? Yep, we're still on Friday. Thursday, day before. Tomorrow, we're meeting at 9 o'clock. Are we all good to go? Sure are. And maybe if I'm super crazy, it'll be on the Friday morning. Hey, meeting in a couple hours. Because honestly, if they're going to cancel, I'd rather them cancel in advance so I can free up my time. Anyway, all right. So meetings, calendars, the best it's ever been. Justin quoted me.
That was pretty good.
That was the best.
I really enjoyed that quote.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Good for you, man. You came up with that like on the spot while you were like listening to that guy talk.
Yeah. There's another one in there, too,
very
if you
good.
want to go for it. But anyway. All right. Well, that's it for our summer series. You've been GTD'd.
You've been GTD.
You've been done. We'll be back.
Done.
Dunny.
I really want that shirt.
And come in a couple weeks, we'll be back. We'll probably hit some more news, catch up on what's anything else Salesforce that happened this summer that we didn't discuss. But until then, and we'll come back with our picks and all that.
Release notes. Dreamforce is coming.
Oh, it's in November. So
Yeah,
3
it's
months.
coming, though.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming.
But I think winter 20 is probably released.
They're all coming.
All right. Then we'll be back with all that stuff. Until then, and as always, it's Justin Jason saying, enjoy those cloudy days.